Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation, looking for the stabilizing iteration of what is sensorality, showing the direct letters, pairing up to another word, sentiality, essential, and then showing that complete pulling through of those letters, stabilizing our axiom, and producing our new word form. So we continue on. Sensorality is graviticality. Right? Gravity is in the same way, right? Linguistics, reality is a form of a solution, right? Re, a prefix, and then ality, a suffix. Prefix and suffix. So gravity is another one of these words. It's kind of like that linguistically. Sensorality is viticality. Sensorality is verticality. Sensorality vindicates. Indication implies. Sensorality is implicality. Valiant is vindictive. A vendetta is a grudge. Grudge, edge. So again, you can see that DG is definitely going on something there. Gravity localizes. Localization concentrates. So again, like even when I say something's going on there, there's just nothing else to say. Pretty much anytime I provide explanation, like I'm doing right now, is one to like clarify, but there's really nothing to clarify. We're just building the logic up. In the same way it might, if you have to walk 1,000 miles, no one step is harder than the other step. It's just you have to do enough steps to walk 1,000 miles. So each step of the derivation is just another point, and the completing, stabilizing linguistics for sensorality is not a special step in the sense that it's more difficult, more insightful. You just have to keep going around and around until you hit this, until you logically exhaust every bit of intuition that exists. And so again, I think I've said it in one of the previous episodes, but I'll say something to the effect of, we're trying to do this. I'm not trying to do anything. And it's again not to sound like there's this levels to mathematics, but I do so much derivation. Like these videos are just like, again, showing you some of the steps, but I'm not like, I never wake up and like try to do mathematics. The realization happens if I don't die. And then past that, it's intellectual property development. But at my level, so to speak, it's not like you don't sit down and like try to do mathematics. It's just there. But gravity localizes, localization concentrates. What is gravity to reality? So that's what I was saying before. Linguistically, it's some sort of sandwich, reality, prefix and suffix. Gravity, same type of deal. Avity, ality. Things that do not exist are not real. Physics exists. So again, we've derived mathematics and we've derived physics. We've derived concepts and we've shown the consistency. And now we're showing that internal consistency within the language itself. But right, phys, you're literally saying the sound is, right? Physics exists, and then we've proven existence is just is with more prefix and suffix. So saying physics exists is just an iteration of the word is. And we've derived that, and that's a natural definition. Physics exists. Physics is the basis of mathematics, right? No one identifies theme, order, chronology emerges. You try to put those pieces in chronological order, emerges. You have order and then you have theme. Order produces theme. Sensorality is gravity. What is gravity to vitality? Right, again, another one of those, what is the theme of mathematics? Right, graviticality, we pull out that vitality, gravity, gravitality, vitality. Gravity is scenicality. Context sets the scene. And so again, like gravity is scenic. You might be saying, like, again, don't overthink these concepts. Again, it's just as long as it's logically consistent, which it has to be if it's a complete sentence. And then if the intuition, you're like, what am I saying? I'm just getting the linguistics in the right order, and all of the meaning is contained within these words. A siren is a sensor. Right, another one of these, a clear physical object, and then it's a sensor with a C. Sensorality is sirenality. And again, when I keep saying sensorality with a C versus an S, it has to show this iteration, and it's very clear, again, the S and the C, the letters represent the sound, and you can see that iterating through a bunch of different languages. What is the relationship, or I guess sensorality is sirenality. What is the relationship? Okay, and so then when I say like a siren is a sensor, and then I say sensorality is, again, logically we're kind of like refreshing. And what I mean is, right, in like the military, you'll have people, or any sort of like obstacle course, rugged outdoor obstacle course, there'll be a big wall, and you have to get like 5 people across the wall. And then the first guy runs up, and the other guy runs on top of that guy, and then the third guy gets on top of the wall, and then they start pulling each other up. That's what we're doing logically and linguistically. And so we run up, we do a theorem, we say a siren is a sensor, and then we say sensorality is, and then once we get to the final, once we pull up all of our letters, sensorality will iterate again into the next word form. And so, and that's how we produce sensorality to begin with, was the completion of speciality. The last remnant, the completion of that proof, was speciality is special with an ITY, and that's literally what it is. And so that will happen with sensorality, but we are like renormalizing, or we're pulling up all of our pieces, and then the completion of sensorality is when we get that last person up. But the intuition is very good, very similar, because again, it's like self-contained. You're bringing up your whole team. The first guy runs up, and then you use each other, like get up there to pull each other up. We use the logic that we've established to reduce this variable sensorality that we've introduced. What is the relationship of rhyme and rhythm? Right? Logically, it's very apparent that if something rhymes, it's linguistically similar. If you want natural opposition, or if you want a broader range of description, you have to differentiate. And so, as Eric Weinstein fraudulently said, as we've referenced multiple times, if it rhymes, it's wrong. And so, how does rhythm regulate rhyme? And again, the obvious linguistics, the words look very similar. Just posing the question to anything that strikes me as intuitive to write it down, I write it down. Rhythm gravitates. And the intuition I have when I write that is, again, if you have a barbell and you're a weightlifter and you have a weight on the bar deadlift that you definitely can't do, but you form a rhythm, you start like pulsing it, you start vibrating it, and in that vibration you can actually move the barbell. You can like pulse it until you can pull the weight up. And so how does rhythm relate to gravity? What is gravity? Again, it's some sort of linguistic word form. It's not well defined. Again, nobody's stupid. When you have these big cumbersome things over history, like what is gravity? What is chirality? It's like, again, they're not well defined. They're not clear physical processes. An element, but there's a reason. Again, there's an epistemological reason as to why these words arise. String theory, right? Ing is the fundamental verb for vibration. So you can't avoid the fundamental theory. If you use all of the wrong words, there's still some intuition behind it. An element is a cell. A unit is an element. Attraction pulls. To show up is to pull up. Pull up on my bitch ass neighbor. But pull-ups and push-ups exist. So again, we get into these broader range of things you can derive, right? Push-ups and pull-ups exist, right? The exercises, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Pull downs don't really exist. Push downs don't really exist. So why? Right? Pull is always towards you. Pulling towards, pushing away. We did that last time. Any word that ends in th will form thing with ing. And so, right, you take a noun, you put ing at the end of it, run, running. I guess run would be a command, but tabling. Right, we're tabling this discussion. You take a word, you put ing on it, you produce a verb. But verbs are the base. And so we have some iteration of verb, noun, verb. In the same way, you have this logical differentiation between meaning, demeaning, right? You put a prefix de in front of the word meaning, and now you have connotation. And there's some sort of iteration, positive, negative, poly-exclusion logic going on. But point being is verbs are the base, and it's the first thing we derived all of that. I'm not going to redo that. But if you take a noun and you put ing on it, right, you get another verb, right? Tabling. And so, but if you have any noun, such as a bath, right? Bathing, bathing. But then you just produce the word ba two elements and then a full complete word, and that's the fundamental word thing, the most general word for any object. All right, and then subsequently you can have math, mathing. Right? Sensorality is mathing, but that's now just sensorality is thing and then MA in front of it. Sensing, sensors. Sensorality suppresses science. Sensorality senses pressure. Sourcing is sensing, and that sourcing is S-O-R-S-I-N-G. Words degenerate into vowels and consonants. So now again, logically we just described nouns and verbs as base and range. And again, still range, base, and domain. That kind of logic love triangles. Again, what is domain? Right? Base, basis, range, domain. Posing the questions to pose them. But now again, physically, vowels vibrate, consonants breaks up that vibration. Verbs are actions, verbs, vowels, vibration. There's a lot of V's going on in there. But again, just trying to show you, trying to find the right question to stabilize all of this. And another intuition I definitely I have had is when like English, when you speak and you say I have and you contract it to I've got an appointment, I've got to go to the store, I've got no friends, and I've got no constitutional rights. That's me, nice. But it's the same exact phonetic and muscular contraction that in the Cyrillic alphabet, V, like just the little B looking symbol. I've, V. It's the same exact thing, and you can kind of feel like your mouth going the opposite direction too. Consonance modifies resonance. Resonance is vibration. Sensation limits information. Sensation is informative. What is the relationship of intuition and conceptualization? Right, you have experience, you experience something, that experience forms intuition. Your reactions are intuitive. Concepts are kind of like instinct is intuitive, concepts are ideal, ideals are perfect. So conceptualization is kind of idyllic, right? You're looking for this perfect idea, forms ideal, and you can clearly see the the building there, but yeah. Ideally is not essentially. Right? If it's essential, it's necessary, it's necessitated. Essentiality necessitates. But ideally, essentially, nothing is ideal. Again, just trying to use the minimal amount of syllability, letters, to stabilize this theorem, as we've said hundreds of times at this point. But it's redundant, it's repetitive, you have to use a vocab word about 7 times. If you have to use a vocab word nobody's used, you have to use it in all of the contexts about 7 times. Fun stuff. All illegal. Super awesome. But essential is a word, special is not. Right? Speciality is especially, essentiality is essential. And now, right, essential is a word, special is not a word. Especially has one S, ESP. Essentially has ESS. So again, we're trying to show this, again, complete iteration of all of the letters. We are conceptually renormalizing with our variables, sensorality. Sensorality is, sensorality is, sensorality is. And then one time we're going to expand out and have, and it even goes like 2 directions. Because remember, all of these definitions are open. But it will show like the completeness of a given section of the syllability, the letters, and then it'll produce this new word form. Yep, that's what I got for you tonight. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.